production, uh, production managers that was with us during the episode we were doing. And we were just like, hey, there's Salem like 45 minutes away, let's go check it out. So we just drove there and everything, so it was cool.
Do you get the energy of the place? It feels different.
Yeah.
Some people get it, some don't, but it really does.
It was
You walk by
different.
these old houses, it's just, I don't know. The
Yeah, they
ground
have a
feels
different
more
feel
solid.
about
I don't
it.
know what it is.
I haven't had a chance to walk around yet today, but I remember when I did visit, it was like, it was weird. Like when we got to Salem, like got downtown and everything, it was like you suddenly felt a different energy towards it. It was like you suddenly like hit a wall or something. You're like, okay, we're somewhere else.
Yeah. It's the most fun thing.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of pagan and wicked shops here.
Mhm. Oh yeah, this place is a mecca for it.
Oh yeah, I will too. I mean, so when did you come here? How long ago?
I came here about 2 years ago.
With the team?
We were, I can't remember offhand what case we were investigating.
The schoolhouse.
It was the school, I think, yeah, it was close by enough.
Yeah. Ronnie was talking
Oh,
about it
okay.
downstairs.
Oh,
It was the
good.
schoolhouse episode.
I was like, all I remember is like myself, Teddy, and like a friend of ours who worked on the show. And it was like, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night. We were like, hey, we're going to go check out Salem. Because we're that crazy.
Just don't ever come on Halloween.
I mean, that was my
Oh.
first trip to stay.
Was it really?
It was a last minute trip and we came down on Halloween and we took 3 hours to find a parking spot.
Yeah, not
Wow.
unless you know a local that can give you the tips on how to actually do it.
Uh-huh. I'm curious about checking out this place on Halloween.
It's, well, they actually have the Salem Coven
Mhm.
does some ritual right outside here on the common.
Oh,
Which is
okay.
really cool. Standing room only.
Wow.
There's all kinds of really things going on.
I heard,
You
yeah.
never know what you're gonna run across.
Really? And I heard it starts getting the same around September and such. Like then it's
Yeah,
kind of
season
beginning
starts.
October.
It just starts, yeah.
It is like.
It goes for like a
People
whole
flood
month.
in. Actually, I used to live around here.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's a town not too far from here.
Mm-hmm. Did
Yeah.
it get crazy around where you live too?
Yeah, there's many paranormal experiences I had.
Oh, cool. Now, fortunately today my PowerPoint decided to have a freak out session and it was just one of those, yeah, it wasn't coming together, had to freak out. I'm like, great, just one more thing to add to the list. So, but today I'm going to talk about basically the whole connection with one of the main deities that is talked about in witchcraft often is Hecate. And this is spoken about especially if you are a follower of Wicca and in general witchcraft. Now, just to give you a brief run through, paganism itself is the kind of umbrella term you use for any spiritual practice that doesn't fall under the main branches of religion such as Christianity, Judaism, and Muslim and such. Then you have paganism, which is, that's when you start splitting hairs right there, because you have Gardnerian Wicca, you have Alexandrian Wicca, you have Norse, you have Egyptian, you have Kemetic, so it's like you have all of these branches and everything. Are you good? Okay. I'm talking. That's not.
I'm sorry.
Hey, late.
Yes, we're so sorry.
So anyways, but one of the, with paganism, one of the main things is the whole earth-based worship and either multiple pantheons, one pantheon, or many deities. Some people actually mix pantheons here and there. That's more the eclectic witchcraft and such. In some ways, I would call myself eclectic because I work with the Egyptians, the Greek, the Romans, the Norse. I don't have them all play in the same sandbox at once because that would not turn out right. And I also work here and there with some of the voodoo as well. I mean, in the last year or so, I've been researching and working with the one voodoo owl, Baron Zamdi, and actually Papa Legba, which actually I'm going to talk about with Hecate. Papa Legba has a similarity to it because he is also a deity of gateways and crossroads, and basically the guardians between life and death. Now with Hecate, she is a main aspect in the pantheon of deities dealing with witchcraft is because of the whole triple aspect of her. She is a nocturnal deity, she is a goddess of the crossroads, and she is often seen in triple form, either three women gathered together, or actually sometimes just three heads, or three heads on one body. It could get kind of interesting. Or actually at some points, at times, it was three animal heads on one form, and this was a representation of Hecate as well. She is also a fertility deity. She is only recently, actually in modern witchcraft, considered a crone deity. She is a goddess of the underworld and of death, and actually communication with spirits as well. So if you practice paganism and you also work within the paranormal, either as an investigator, researcher, or even psychic, she is possibly a good deity to work with if you want to improve your connections with the other side, with the underworld, with spirits and such, because she was one of the main deities that would be kind of both the guardian against spirits, but also the one that would bring spirits in as well, all depending on what was going on. Like I said, also she is a deity of the crossroads, which took both a physical form and a metaphysical form about her. The crossroads as in the Y-shaped three crossroads, because it's basically the idea of when you come to that point is either you can only go right or left, and it's the choices you make both in your life and everything. But actually during the Greek and Roman period, at the crossroads there would actually be physical forms like signposts of Hecate, and she would act as a guardian of that road. These were called Hecateians, and they would also be posted also at the entrances of the major cities, and actually people would also keep them outside their household too, because she was a goddess of entrances, of gateways, of roads. So not only would she guard the city, but she would also guard your household too. So one of the things that as almost a gargoyle or guardian of your household, you can put a figurine representing Hecate outside to basically be a protector as well. Now, what I have found interesting in my research about Hecate is that she started off before Greek and Roman as a fertility goddess. She was very similar to, she dealt with crops, she dealt with birth and life, but then she also dealt with medicines, herbs, medical treatment of that nature. She still has those aspects, but they aren't as focused as they used to be. But what's interesting, she was also connected to the virgin deities, such as Artemis and Diana. That's why she's also connected in the triple form with Diana, Artemis, and also Persephone as well, who is also a fertility or youthful goddess who has connections with the underworld as well. But what I found interesting is the fact that she started off as this virginal, young, beautiful goddess of life and fertility, and today you see her as this old crone whose might kills you with the look of her eye. So it's like, how did she jump from this to this? And what happened in the middle? What is interesting with her is when the Greeks were coming into power and such, they started absorbing other religions into their own culture. They started absorbing other deities in their own culture. This is a commonplace. Most of the time when other cultures either take over another country or city or place, they will either try to stomp out the current religion to establish their own religion, or they will simply absorb that religion into their own. You'll actually see a lot with Buddhism, what they've done when they have moved through the East. they didn't stomp out the religions currently there. They just brought them into their own and just kind of melded and made it one. That's why you still have many of the Eastern deities, because they worked fine within the Buddhism thinking point. With the Greeks, they took the same thing. They started establishing their own temples and points of worship for Hecate as well. She just kind of fit in with all of their pantheon as well. That's why also the stories of her origin changes. One of the stories is that she was originally one of the Titans that actually helped Zeus in saving his brothers and sisters and actually overcoming the other Titans. This is why she was able to retain her abilities, retain her power where she was. And then she also gained the title of triple, not just in the triple forming sphere, but also in the fact that she was entitled to control over heaven, earth, and the ocean. Basically also heaven, earth, and the underworld. This is where you also see why she becomes also kind of the messenger in a sense. She was the one when Persephone was taken to the underworld of Hades, she was the one who went to try to negotiate for Persephone to be returned back to her mother and everything, because she was that almost psychopomp where she could traverse between Olympus to the underworld and not have any troubles there. She is also heavily associated too with any of the nocturnal animals such as dogs, horses, owls, snakes. When you see images of her, you'll often see snakes in her hands, along with also torches, or you'll see dogs baying at her feet. This was also one of the popular sacrifices to her. This was actually a common sacrifice animal too. Dogs and pigs were both sacrificed to many of the deities, and actually one of the things you can tell if the deity was foreign to Greek or Roman culture is it depends on what they sacrificed to them. Dogs was foreign to the Greek and Romans in general, but they became a commonplace because they were cheap, easy, and to them they were right there along with pigs that were also used as sacrificial animals. Along with sacrificing dogs as well, they would leave meals for Hecate herself at the crossroads. One of the main things to do was to leave bread at the crossroads, at the post where she was to guard the crossroads, and this was actually food often taken by the poor and the homeless. And this was not an uncommon thing. Many of the items that were sacrificed to the outdoor temples would always end up being food for the homeless and poor. It was one of those, even though it was being put for this deity, everyone knew already that someone else would come around and take the food anyways. But as I was saying, her triple form doesn't just take place with her being in triple form when you see her in statue. It was also what she could control. She controlled the heavens, she controlled the earth, and she controlled the underworld. In a sense, she was a physical form of what you see with the tree of life in Norse mythology and Jewish mythology. She had basically a free pass to go anywhere she needed to go. And later on, you see her change from something that worked with the earth and bringing life and crops and new births and everything to something that dealt with more with what went back to the earth, with death and bodies and decay. And it was such a strange flip from suddenly she's this life form to suddenly she's the harbinger or the person who returned you back to the earth in which you came from. So you now start seeing that she's almost morphing because of the culture absorbing her and taking her, but actually one of the things that really changed her was fiction, was the classic, was poetry and mythology being formed. She started being used in an entirely different way than what was expected of her. Like, she started being referred to in connection with witches, and these were not the most pleasant witches. These were the ones that were the spellcasters and the poisoners and the ones that would turn you into a pig. These were not the pleasant ones. Yeah. Well, they were in the one tale of one of Homer's